Hello, this is my quick review of All Hallows Eve The Reaping, as it's known in the UK. In the US it's known as All Hallows Eve 2. It does annoy me when distributors keep messing around with the titles and releasing them in different ways like this, but this is the second time already in my short-lived review series I've had to sort of explain why a film's got two different titles, but I don't know why they do it, but in the UK here it's All Hallows Eve The Reaping, hence why I've got it on my thumbnail. I think we've actually got the better title in Britain actually on this one, because this film does feel like more of a spin-off than a direct sequel to the original, and there's a few reasons for that. I actually only found out about an hour before I watched the movie that there's no Art the Clown in this one. He was sort of the main villain of the first one who kept ducking in and out of the story. He was absolutely brilliant. I loved that original film, gave it 4 bloody axes, so I was really looking forward to this one. But the fact that he's not in the second one, it's not a deal breaker, but in fact, something that worried me more was the knowledge I picked up that there's 8 stories in this one, this new one, plus a wraparound to make 9 stories. I've never seen a horror anthology have 9 stories before. So, I mean, would that not dilute the quality? That was my big worry coming in, not whether art was in it or not. So let's begin with the wraparound. This story starts with a attractive woman using an Ouija board to try and find out if her boyfriend's going to be calling her that night. It's really silly, a little bit funny though. And then she spots that there's a guy outside with a pumpkin mask on looking up at her with a butcher's knife in a really threatening manner. So she gets all freaked out, and he does kind of creep up to her apartment door and leave a VHS tape there. And on that tape are the 8 stories that we're going to watch in this film. So I guess it's an okay start, but the fact that we see the tape left there just kind of takes the mystery out. The first film, we didn't know where the tape came from. It just sort of appeared in this kid's sweet bag, and I think that was a better way to do it. It left us wondering, how did it get there? Who left it there? For what purpose? In this one, we're kind of like, oh, this killer's just being weird. So, on the whole, quite a mediocre start, and it gets worse when the wraparound eventually circles its way to the end of the film, because it just, without saying what happens, it just ends in a really kind of lame, oh, okay then, kind of way, where I was like, yeah, I'm not that impressed. So that's the wraparound, not that great. The actual main stories, there's 8 of them, as I've already said, and I can honestly say only probably 2 of the 8 are of a really good quality, at least in my opinion. That's not a good ratio, 2 out of 8. The first of those 2 is the 4th story chronologically. It's this story about a woman who, she witnesses this murder and gets away from the killer's grasp, but the killer doesn't get caught either. And then a few weeks later, this woman just happens to realise she's in the same room as the killer, but the killer doesn't seem to recognise her, because he didn't really get a good sight of her the first time around. They were sort of in the same vicinity. So there's all this tension about what's going to happen. I really enjoyed this one. I was on the edge of my seat. I'd say it's about 15 minutes long, and it has a couple of twists near the end as well, which is really good. In fact, this is the only story in this movie that I would have quite happily would like to have seen moved to the original All Hallows Eve and been in better company, as it were, in terms of quality. There is another good one, but that's a really short one. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long. It's about this guy who, he's killing these teenagers inside his house and then taking their dead bodies outside. He's got this kind of Halloween, you know how some people decorate their gardens on Halloween with all these props and pumpkins and dangling skeletons and things. He's got a kind of setup like that. But just to make his even better, he's putting dead bodies in there and covering their faces with masks so people won't even notice. But then, of course, somebody does notice, and he acts all surprised. Oh, I can't believe somebody's noticed. And yeah, just a random woman walking past notices that there's dead bodies in his garden as part of his Halloween decorations, and it kind of goes from there. But it's only about 5 minutes long. I enjoyed that one, fair enough. So that's the second story that I enjoyed, but that's it. That's literally 2 out of 8. And the entire film, that's probably not even half an hour of the hour and a half runtime. I feel like I should have enjoyed more of the stories than that, but all the others, they're just not that interesting, or they start well with an interesting sort of concept and then there's no payoff. The first story, for instance, is about the idea of people eating pumpkin seeds as if they're just peanuts or something, and then pumpkins grow inside you and explode, killing you. a bit like those creatures on Alien. But the story's kind of spoilt for me because it kills kids, and that's usually a no-no for me, at least when it's really violent. You know, I can live with kids getting killed in films if it's kind of like, you know, done tastefully and quickly, but exploding pumpkins inside them and creatures growing out of them, and yeah, that I just had to move on from that story and get my head out of it. So not a good start, because that was the first story in the film. Second story is about this apocalypse going on the same night as Halloween, which had a few creepy moments, but I had trouble following the plot of that one, actually. I won't go through them all. I can't remember them all. There's 8 in total. I'd say the absolute worst of the worst was this one, which was kind of a spin on the whole young boy thinks there's a monster in the closet type story, which we've seen a million times, read about a million times, and this didn't do anything new with the idea. It was just tedious. It was just 15 minutes of him getting scared, his mum trying to convince him there's nothing wrong. I was so glad when that segment came into an end. It dragged and dragged. So All Hallows Eve, The Reaping, on the whole, not that impressive, I'm afraid. It feels like a film that was just made to cash in on the success of the original. I gave the original 4 bloody axes. I'm only going to give this one 2 bloody axes, and I feel like I've been generous with that. I mean, I get the fact that this film, the original, was made by almost entirely by Damien Leone, I think, who was like the creator of Terrifier. It was all his project. I think this one, it's kind of been franchised out to a number of different sort of up-and-coming directors to just give them a chance to sort of get their work out there, and that's fair enough. It's, you know, it's a good start for them, but, you know, as a guy who just wants to watch a quality film, on the way that this is packaged, it's just not that entertaining. There's no kind of theme running through it. It's all kind of slapdash, all the stories just kind of thrown together, whereas in the first film, the stories felt like they belonged together. There was kind of a feel like they should be in the group, you know. So yeah, 2 bloody axes, and I'm just ready to move on now from All Hallows Eve anthology films. You know, 2 and done. I'm happy to be moving on. So that's that. I think the next film I'm going to be watching and reviewing is Terrifier, which is Art the Clown's full-length debut. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I don't know if you noticed that this is my first review that I've done in the horizontal format rather than the vertical format. I had a tip that this would be much better for people to watch, so I hope that is the case. If not, let me know, but I'm certainly planning to film like this from now on. Okay, so cheerio until next time. Goodbye.